Deep in the heart of a beautiful forest lived 4 special friends. There was Chunky the squirrel, who loved collecting nuts more than anything else in the world. His cheeks would puff out as he gathered acorns, walnuts, and hazelnuts, storing them carefully for the winter months. Chippy the parrot had the most colorful feathers in the whole forest, brilliant reds, blues, and yellows that shimmered in the sunlight as he flew between the treetops. Andy the monkey could swing from tree to tree faster than anyone, performing amazing somersaults and tricks that made all the other animals watch in wonder. And Timmy the pig, with his pink curly tail and gentle smile, was known as the kindest animal in the forest, always ready to help a friend in need. Every morning, without fail, they would meet at the big oak tree in the center of the forest to play together and share stories of their adventures. One sunny Tuesday morning, as the friends were playing their favorite game of hide and seek around the big oak tree, they noticed dark clouds gathering quickly in the distance. The wind began to pick up, rustling the leaves around them. "Look at those clouds." Chunky pointed with his tiny paw. "I think a big storm is coming our way." The friends decided they should hurry back to their homes before the rain started, but before they could scamper away to safety, they heard a terrible cracking sound echoing through the forest. Crack! Boom! The storm had arrived faster than expected, and a massive branch from an old pine tree came crashing down, completely blocking the path that led to their homes. "Oh no," cried Timmy, his eyes wide with worry. "How will we get home now? The storm is getting worse by the minute." Raindrops began to fall, first just a few, then more and more until it was pouring. The 4 friends huddled together beneath a large leaf, trying to stay dry while they figured out what to do. Chunky shivered, his fluffy tail wrapped around himself for comfort. "I'm scared," he admitted. "My tree house is on the other side of that fallen branch, and that's where all my nuts are stored." Chippy fluffed his colorful feathers and put a reassuring wing around his friend. "Don't worry, Chunky. We're all in this together, and friends help each other when times get tough." Andy, always the adventurous one, jumped up with excitement. "I have an idea. I'm really good at swinging and climbing. Maybe I can move that branch out of our way." He rushed over to the fallen branch and pushed with all his might, his face turning red with effort. But the branch was enormous and wouldn't budge even an inch. "It's way too heavy for me alone," Andy admitted, catching his breath. Timmy trotted over, his hooves splashing in the puddles forming on the forest floor. "Let me help. Pigs are very strong." Together, Andy and Timmy pushed and heaved, but even their combined strength wasn't enough to move the massive branch. The friends gathered in a circle, sitting close together as they tried to think of another solution. The rain continued to fall steadily around them. "We need a plan," Chippy announced, tapping his beak thoughtfully. "Everyone has something special they can do." Chunky looked down at his paws sadly. "But what can I do? I'm just a small squirrel. I'm not strong like Timmy or agile like Andy." Chippy shook his head firmly. "That's not true. You're great at finding paths through the trees. You know this forest better than any of us." Chunky's eyes brightened at this reminder. Chippy continued, "And I can fly up high to see if there's another way around this obstacle." Without waiting another moment, Chippy spread his colorful wings and soared up above the treetops, despite the rain making his feathers heavy. He circled the area, his sharp eyes scanning the forest below. After a few minutes, he swooped back down to his friends, shaking water from his wings. "I see another path we can take," he announced excitedly. "But..." His voice grew quieter. "It goes through Grumpy Bear's cave." The other 3 friends gasped in unison. "Grumpy Bear?" Andy's tail drooped with worry. "He doesn't like visitors. Everyone knows he growls at anyone who comes near his cave." Timmy, though frightened himself, stood tall. "But we have to try. The storm is getting worse, and we need to find shelter. Maybe Grumpy Bear will understand if we explain our situation." With Chunky leading the way, the 4 friends began their journey through the rain-soaked forest. Chunky examined the tree bark and moss patterns, remembering all the secret pathways he'd discovered during his nut-gathering expeditions. "This way, everyone," he called, pointing to a narrow trail between 2 ancient oak trees. "I recognize these markings. This path will take us toward Grumpy Bear's cave, but it's the safest route with all this rain." The friends followed Chunky's lead, trusting his knowledge of the forest paths. After walking for what seemed like hours, their fur and feathers soaked through, they came to a rushing river that blocked their path. The normally gentle stream had been transformed by the storm into a roaring torrent of water. Andy peered across anxiously. "How will we cross this? It's too wide to jump, and the current looks really strong." Timmy stepped back from the edge, looking worried. And I can't swim very well in fast water like this. Chippy, always ready to help, took to the air again. I'll fly across and look for something we can use. He battled against the wind and rain, finally making it to the other side where he spotted some long, sturdy vines hanging from a tall tree. Gripping them in his beak, he called out to Andy, "Can you use these vines to make a bridge?" Andy's face lit up. Great idea. With an impressive leap, he swung across the river, grabbing the vines Chippy had found. Using his nimble fingers and knowledge of knots, Andy secured the vines to trees on both sides of the river, creating a simple but effective bridge. Chunky was the first to try crossing. "This is scary," he admitted, placing one paw carefully on the vine bridge, "but I can do it." Step by step, he made his way across, his tail helping him balance like a tightrope walker. Chippy flew alongside him, offering encouragement. When they reached the other side safely, they turned to watch Timmy, who stood hesitating at the river's edge. "I'm too heavy for those vines," he called over the sound of the rushing water. "They'll break under my weight." Not wanting to leave their friend behind, the others looked around for another solution. Timmy began walking along the riverbank, searching for a narrower spot to cross. After a short distance, he discovered a series of large, flat stones that formed a natural path across the water. "Look, I can jump from stone to stone." Taking a deep breath to gather his courage, Timmy stepped onto the first stone. It was slippery from the rain, and he wobbled precariously. His friends watched anxiously from the other side as he carefully jumped to the second stone, then the third. Halfway across, his hoof slipped on the wet surface. "Whoa!" he cried out, teetering on the edge. The others gasped in fear, but Timmy managed to regain his balance and continued his journey across the stones, finally reaching his friends on the other side. "Hooray for Timmy!" they cheered, gathering around their brave friend. "You did it!" Timmy blushed with pride, happy that he had found his own way to overcome the obstacle. Together again, the four friends continued their journey toward Grumpy Bear's cave, the storm still raging around them. As they approached the cave entrance, they could see it was dark and intimidating, with strange shadows dancing at its mouth. Chunky hesitated, his small body trembling. "Maybe we should find another way?" he suggested nervously. Andy pointed up at the sky, where lightning flashed and thunder boomed. "But the storm is getting worse. We need shelter now." Chippy nodded in agreement. "We'll be quiet so we don't wake Grumpy Bear. Maybe we can just stay near the entrance until the storm passes." Tiptoeing as quietly as they could, the friends entered the cave. It was dark inside, with only occasional flashes of lightning illuminating the stone walls. As their eyes adjusted to the darkness, they could make out a large, shadowy figure at the back of the cave. "Look," Andy whispered, pointing. "Is that Grumpy Bear?" A deep rumbling sound echoed through the cave, and the friends huddled together in fear. Suddenly, the silence was broken by an enormous sneeze that shook the entire cave. "Achoo!" The sound was followed by sniffling and a grumpy voice. "Who's there?" "Sniff, go away. I'm not in the mood for visitors." Achoo! As another flash of lightning lit up the cave, the friends could see a large brown bear sitting alone, looking miserable with a red nose and watery eyes. Gathering their courage, Chippy stepped forward. "Mr. Bear? Are you okay? You sound sick." The bear looked up, surprised to see the four friends. "I have a terrible cold," he explained with another sniff. "That's why I'm so grumpy. I don't feel good at all." His voice softened as he added, "Nobody ever visits me anyway. They all think I'm mean and scary." The friends exchanged glances, feeling sorry for the lonely bear. Chunky spoke up, "You're not mean. You're just not feeling well. Everyone gets grumpy when they're sick." Timmy nodded in agreement and stepped forward. "My mom always makes a special soup when I'm sick. It helps me feel better right away. I can make some for you if you'd like." The bear looked surprised at the offer. "You would do that for me? Even though you don't know me?" Timmy smiled kindly. "Of course. That's what friends do. They help each other." With that, Timmy began gathering special herbs that grew in the damp corners of the cave. Andy collected water in a large leaf from a small spring at the back of the cave. Chunky contributed some nuts and berries from his emergency supply that he always carried in his cheeks. Chippy used his wings to fan a small fire that the bear had been trying to keep lit. Working together, the friends prepared a delicious, healing soup. The cave soon filled with the wonderful aroma of herbs and berries. When it was ready, they offered it to the bear, who took a cautious sip. His eyes widened in surprise and delight. "This is the most delicious soup I've ever tasted," he exclaimed, taking another spoonful. "No one has ever been so kind to me before." For the first time, The friends saw the bear smile, transforming his grumpy face into a friendly one. As they shared the soup and stories, the bear introduced himself properly. "My name is Bobby," he said, "not Grumpy Bear like everyone calls me." He explained that he lived alone because the other animals were afraid of him, which made him sad and, well, grumpy. The friends listened sympathetically, realizing how lonely Bobby must have been all this time. When the storm finally began to subside, Bobby stood up, looking much better after the soup and company. "Let me help you get home," he offered. "I know a secret tunnel through my cave that will take you right to the other side of that fallen branch." The friends were delighted by this news and followed Bobby through a narrow passage that wound its way through the mountain. After walking for a short while, they saw light ahead. "Here we are," Bobby announced as they emerged from the tunnel. To their amazement, they were standing just beyond the fallen branch that had blocked their path earlier. Their homes were visible in the distance, and the storm clouds were beginning to clear, revealing patches of blue sky. "Thank you so much, Bobby," the friends exclaimed gratefully. Bobby shuffled his large paws, looking shy. "It was nothing. Thank you for the soup and for being kind to me." Chunky had an idea. "Why don't you come visit us tomorrow at the big oak tree? We meet there every morning to play." Bobby's eyes lit up with hope. "Really? You want me to join you?" The friends nodded enthusiastically. "Of course. You're our friend now." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink, the friends said goodbye to Bobby and headed to their respective homes. Chunky to his cozy tree hollow filled with nuts, Chippy to his colorful nest high in the branches, Andy to his swinging vine hammock, and Timmy to his comfortable mud house. Each of them reflected on the day's adventure and the valuable lessons they had learned. The next morning dawned bright and clear, with no sign of yesterday's storm except for puddles in the fallen branch, which forest workers were already clearing away. As promised, the four friends gathered at the big oak tree for their daily playtime. But today was special because they had invited a new friend. To their delight, Bobby Bear arrived, looking happy and healthy, carrying a basket of honey treats to share. "I made these to thank you for your kindness," Bobby explained, passing the sweet treats around. The friends spent the day playing games, telling stories, and getting to know their new friend better. Bobby wasn't grumpy at all. He was funny, gentle, and kind when given the chance to show his true self. As the sun reached its highest point in the sky, the five friends sat together in the shade of the big oak tree. "I've learned something important," Bobby said thoughtfully. "Being alone made me grumpy, but having friends makes me happy." Andy nodded in agreement. "And we learned that everyone has something special to offer," Timmy added. "When friends work together and use their different talents, they can overcome any problem." Chunky and Chippy smiled, remembering how each of them had contributed in their own unique way to their adventure. From that day forward, Bobby Bear became a beloved member of their friend group, and the animals of the forest gradually realized he wasn't grumpy at all, just lonely. And that's how five very different animals became the best of friends, proving that friendship can be found in the most unexpected places, and that kindness and teamwork can turn even the stormiest day into a bright new beginning.